Hey guys, welcome back to our Real Love Scenario. Shout out to all our real lovers out there. We back with another episode, back with another week. We had some people say our last episode was one of their favorite episodes.
It was good.
Yeah, that was one about love languages.
It was good.
And then y'all got to experience us as friends kind of going off on the end when we were just talking about
Stuff.
stuff.
I enjoy talking about stuff. I really do. I do. I think it was also a nice little break from the last few episodes of like cheating situations.
Yeah.
Because we had a few cheating ones back to back where it was like, ooh, can we just talk about another issue? A different issue, a lighter issue.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But getting into love languages and things. So make sure if you haven't checked out that episode that you check it out. Yeah. And then also go back and check out all of our guest episodes that we have had. We've had some really cool guests with really different perspectives.
Yes.
That, you know, I think were really dope interviews.
Yeah, they were. And if you're new here, you know, we got Amanda Seals. We had Don't Call Me White Girl. We had Gia Peppers. We had Raheem Devon and Cody Elaine Oliver and many, many more to come. So that's a nice, like when I just said all those names together, it's like, okay. All right. It's diverse. You got a little music, you got a little comedy. I like it.
For sure.
Yes.
Really, really dope. We appreciate all of our real lovers. Shout out to y'all. We are back here for another episode. And you know, I got to do my real lover shout out, one of our favorite parts of the show. And last time we did like a voice review. That was cool.
That was great.
But I'm gonna go back to the regular review. Okay. But this is from Renee 2022 number sign.
Okay.
So it's like hashtag Renee 2022, but the hashtag at the end instead of the beginning.
Got it.
So the title says informative show, my go-to. Thank you for sharing your advice on your show. I'm a middle-aged divorced woman and appreciate hearing all sides of the love scenarios from a male and female perspective. The show is entertaining, engaging, and enlightening. Keep up the awesome work. That's basically the description for our show.
Just put it on the page.
That's basically the description.
That's it.
Hearing about love scenarios from a male and female perspective in an entertaining, engaging, and enlightening way.
I love it. Renee, you got us.
Hit it nail on the head.
You see us. We appreciate you. Pound. Okay.
Shout out to our real lovers. And hopefully we'll have some real lover events coming up soon. Stay tuned to the Relationship Restore page. Make sure you go visit that and follow that.
On all the platforms.
Oh yeah. Last time I talked about, you finally got to see my picnic that I did for Bree.
I did.
Yeah, I talked about that the last episode.
It was so sweet. I was like, oh my God, even in the rain. Like you didn't cancel it. You just pivoted. You were determined.
Yes.
That's hello, y'all. That's what I'm saying. When your person is personing, you got the person back. You got the person back.
When your person is personing.
You got a person back. Very good job.
Thank you.
Very good job. I watched it a few times like, yeah. It's so sweet.
It was so dope because if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to my page and it's like, if you look on my page or the Relationship Restore page, it's like a picture of a Polaroid of Bree holding it and you can see. But we talked about this last episode to where I surprised Bree with a picnic and I was talking about the reciprocity and love. If you be sweet and kind to your partner, they'll be sweet and kind to you back.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because trying to plan things as a surprise for your partner is always interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because number one, it takes knowing your person because you got to tell a lie that works.
Yes.
That they'll believe.
True.
And I feel like I'm good at it. And then Bree is just, no offense, naive enough to like go with things.
Yes, that's what you need. You need that. I hate people that aren't naive enough. Like you just ruined the whole surprise. Like, geez.
That base moved 2 inches to the right. That wasn't there before.
So you got a camera in here. You throwing me a party? Just like, geez. Calm down. Never mind. Come on, guys. Jesus. Happy birthday. Ugh.
I'm that person. But so I told her it was my aunt's birthday that weekend. And I was like, we're going to a winery. And I think I said that the last episode, but with it being changed and it about to rain, the person was like, yo, it's raining, downpouring here in Alexandria. We're not going to be able to do it. We're going to have to move it inside. And I'm like, inside. Like, what does a picnic look like inside? And do you have a location? They're like, no, we'll come to your house where you're at. And I'm like, well, I can't set it up in the house because she's here.
Right.
And then I'm like, all right, going through all the amenity spaces in my building. And this one is nice that you have like an apartment. And then I was like, all right, there's a turf downstairs. Some kids playing soccer on that. Then I was like, oh, there's this room upstairs. Somebody's playing an engagement party. So I'm like, where am I going to do this? And I remember on the top floor, there's like a covered deck. And I was like,
I've been
this
there.
could work.
Yes.
This could work.
Yes.
So then I was like, how am I going to get Brie to come upstairs? So I was like, oh, you do spaces, like it's a company where she designed the spaces and stuff like that. And I was like, somebody's doing an engagement party upstairs. I feel like that could be something you could do. You should check it out. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So we go upstairs and there's actually an engagement thing there. So she's like, oh, okay. So right beside it, I open up the door and then it's the picnic. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, this is so cute. This is exactly what I wanted to do for my birthday. And she started taking a picture and video. And then I go to open up the cooler. And she was like, Dre, why are you touching their stuff? And I was like, huh? And she was like, this is for the engagement, right? Like, I guess after they do the engagement party, they're going to come out here and do this. And I was like, no, this is for you. She was like, hold on, what? I was like, this is for you. She was like, you did this?
You did this?
I'm like, I mean, I didn't buy this, but I did this. And then she was like freaking out because the whole time, I thought when she saw it, she would have been like, but because it was so close to the room where they were doing the engagement,
she literally was like, what are you doing? Like, get off of their stuff.
And I was like, no, I got this for you.
Oh my God.
And then it was sweet. We got to enjoy it for a little while. Then the rain got crazy. If anybody knows anything about Tyson's, it's a wind tunnel.
Yes, it is.
It is. They say Chicago the windy city, but Tyson's Corner, Virginia,
might be a close second.
Yeah. And when the rain started coming down, the wind started, it was like, all right. But she was beautiful. She's still riding on cloud nine.
It was good. So it was very, very good.
Check that out.
Yes, please check that out. Thank you for that update. And speaking of updates, we actually do have an update from our real lover who wrote in this very episode that Dre is talking about. I think the title is My Man Won't Love Me in My Love Language. Do we have a future? So she wrote in and she said, thank you, Andre, so much for the feedback. It was amazing and everything I needed to hear. It's so much to touch on because he has explained that he's never loved anyone like he loves me and that he's never experienced a true relationship. He's had women that he had sex with here and there, but that was more so a him thing. So this is really the first time he's experienced real love. He also told me I was the first person he ever made love to. Sorry if that's too much information. So I believe, like Dre said, I need to be patient and give more time, but also express why it's important to me. I swear I love the podcast. It helps me become a better me in my relationship. This was awesome. This podcast is the best. Now, we did not pay her to write that.
We did not.
Thank you, Anonymous. Thank you for that update and wishing y'all all the best.
For sure.
All the best. All the best. That was so good. We love an update.
We'd
be like.
And I'm glad that you just took that perspective that we gave and understand that relationships will work.
Yes.
You know, just take some time.
That's all. And I loved it that both things that we said rang true for the scenario. That she needed to be more patient, but she also needed to not just explain what her love language is, but why it's important to her. That's how you do this. Okay, well, you write in the that's how you do that. Okay. All right, moving on.
Give us a 3-month update once we get there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Keep us updated as we're going. So for our real life love scenario, we're gonna go to a fellow podcaster in the relationship space.
Yeah.
Dear future wifey.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what's his name again?
Laterris Whitfield.
Yes. So he did a live show. And this was a while back. It's not
I think it was a little while ago.
A little while ago, but it's been surfacing on the internets recently to where Mr.
Pastor.
Mr. Never would have made her.
Never.
Ooh,
all right, sorry. We're going to have a music moment.
Mr. Marvin Sapp said something very interesting.
He did.
Prophetic in a lot of ways, but I don't know if this was one of those prophetic things.
Yeah.
So basically, long story short, Pastor Sapp said that men love unconditionally.
Yes.
while women love conditionally.
Yes.
He goes to use an example and say that I'm getting my passing mode. I get my passing mode. I'm sorry.
Make me pull this organ out on you now. Go ahead.
He goes to say that billionaires would date a nanny. However, a woman wouldn't do it, and if it was reversed in the same way. So, me and Rhonda was talking about this because we sent this in our Relationship Restore group chat. Just the concept that men date unconditionally and women can't date unconditionally.
Right.
And I think Rhonda and I both were just like, nah, I don't think that's true.
Not across the board.
Not across the board.
And also, I feel like his basis of unconditional was weak.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the billionaire nanny situation, I don't think is a good representation.
That represents unconditional love because you married someone that makes less than you?
No. It's just conditions are different. Everybody has conditions, right?
Sure they do.
To their love.
Yes.
But what was your initial thoughts on it when you heard it?
Well, one, like I said, I just thought the basis of how he was describing unconditional love, and I think it was even worse because, like, Marvin Sapp / Pastor Sapp, you are a spiritual man, and I think if you basing your definition of love on anything, I would think it would be spirituality
and biblical
teachings. Yeah. And so when you think about God loving us unconditionally, how did that example that you provided, the billionaire man marries the nanny woman, is the sign that he unconditionally loves her, and that is what makes you believe that men unconditionally love. First and foremost, I personally don't believe in. I don't think most of us are capable of that with people that we didn't give birth to. Yeah. I think most people can only really unconditionally, like, no matter what they do, stay locked in with someone. And even some people's kids get kicked out of that. You know what I mean? Like, if they're abusive or whatever, it's like, I might love you, but I can't deal with you, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it was weak, but I think it's person to person. Like, so many things about love and relationships and dating, they are not gender specific. Some women do date, as you said earlier, below their station, right? They date a man that makes less than them, and it works or it doesn't work. Some men feel like, nah, you got to come to the table. If I'm a billionaire, you got to be a billionaire. Like, we got to have an empire. So I just want him and everybody else to stop making everything so definitive and like a blanketed means of understanding, because people aren't a monolith. They're different.
Very true.
And yeah, so I was like, this is way off for me.
Yeah.
Way off for me.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah. What about you? Did you got the same thing?
I got the same vibe. Yeah. I think everybody has their own conditions, and we had talked about this before, and I remember this was a long time ago when Rhonda and I were in property management. Mm-hmm. I believe that you sent me this article, and I don't know if you remember it, where it said why a woman shouldn't date a man past a year. Mm-hmm. And basically what it was.
I don't remember that, but I would love to see that.
I don't know if you sent it to me or I remember we were discussing it, and I always remember it because it said what men value in women is beauty, attractiveness, the ability to be able to reproduce. Mm-hmm. And the older that you get as a woman, the more that diminishes. Mm-hmm. As a man, what women value in men a lot of times is security, ability to be able to provide, and things of that nature. And as men get older, they gain that. Mm-hmm. So the article was saying why women shouldn't date a man past a year is because if you get dragged along, he's appreciating and value while, quote unquote, your value is diminishing.
Yeah.
To men. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's more of what the conditions are versus that there are no conditions at all. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that, and I feel like that article explains it perfectly, that the billionaire to the nanny, if a man is a billionaire, which was just, like you said, a bad argument.
Yes.
Billionaire.
Yes.
That's not like you make $250,000, you doing good in life. Mm-hmm. A billionaire, you don't really.
Nothing. I don't need you can literally buy a person.
I don't need a drop of contribution from you financially at all.
No.
So the things that I value in a person will look a little bit different.
Sure.
And a lot of times if you're a billionaire, what you see a lot is Bill and Melinda. Mm-hmm. figure out something you're passionate about, run the charity, run whatever. So you still have a responsibility in all of the entities that we have,
Sure.
but you don't have to do anything that you really don't want to do. And I would expect that if I married a woman who's a billionaire, should I be going to work every day, probably doing something I don't want to do? No, she's going to be like, yo, we good. Like, what do you want to do? And I'll help you and put forth anything. So what a billionaire would value in a person and his conditions for love might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And also, if he's looking for another billionaire, I'm pretty sure the pool's probably small.
Yeah.
It's probably women who are older a lot of
Maybe,
times,
yeah.
right? Because it takes time to amass that type of fortune. And it's like, yeah, it would never be like that. But I know a lot of women. And it's funny in his example, too, not to get on him too much, is that as soon as he said that, he gave an example of the opposite.
Yes.
Right.
His friend,
His
somebody
friend.
he actually knows, not the billionaire nanny. You don't know that dynamic. You know that your friend is dating a woman who makes, or is it is his friend the woman?
No, his friend is the guy.
His friend is the guy, so he's married to a woman who makes more than him.
Yeah. Like, you have an example of that
Hester,
and see
you're beating the work against yourself, my man.
and see how that works. And I know a lot of women, friends who I'm trying to convince, like, this dude ain't good for you. He ain't got it.
Yeah.
But every single way they find a reason why it makes sense. He's a good guy. He's trying. I feel like I can change him. He has a good heart. Like, all these different things, all these conditions why they should stay in a situation that don't make sense. So I can't say that women, and just the generalization too of like women don't love unconditionally, and no, women put up with more stuff in love than guys do, I would say.
It's and listen, I try not to be biased, so I can literally only speak from a woman's perspective. In majority of the relationships that I've been in, that has been true for me. That has been true for me, that I used love as an excuse to deal with a lot of things. I love this person. I see the potential in this person. All that to me, it gives like that rose-colored glasses feeling of like, love is a veil, you know, like it can be a beautiful veil, but it can also be blinding, you know? So it's like, I don't know. It's just, things are just, speaking of conditions, this is a conditional topic within itself. Every dynamic is just different. And sometimes financial dynamics do not determine if a person loves you unconditionally. That just might mean that they can tolerate certain things about you more. Or that's one thing checked off the list. Because listen, rich people have left nannies and nannies have left rich. You know what I mean? Like in a power dynamic like that, some people still walk away from it. You know why? Because their conditions weren't being met. So it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. The rich man has left the woman that he unconditionally got with because she didn't have anything. He up and left her years later because, whatever.
Maybe she didn't mentally challenge him. Maybe, it's a lot of different. I would have responded back to him and been like, okay, so if a man cheated on a guy or a guy cheated on a woman, like, which one is more inclined to stay, in your opinion, a man or a woman? And he probably would have said a woman is more inclined to stay.
Sure.
Oh, so I guess they do love, like unconditionally.
Right.
But as a man, if a woman cheating on you, you'd be like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm finished.
Oftentimes. It's some
done.
men that take them back.
Some men that do.
But it's rare.
But we be heartbroken. How could you? I know I slept with 10 other women, but the one that you kissed is unacceptable.
Unacceptable. And after you found out I cheated 5 times, how dare you?
How dare you do that?
You slut. My mama warned me about you. It's crazy.
It's a world full
Sorry,
of double
Pastor Sapp, but
standard.
we love you. I would honestly love to talk to Marvin Sapp. He would be great. But yeah, that's just like Mrs. Kev on stage said, respectfully to the legend, I don't say I don't disagree with you.
I just want to offer a different perspective.
Offering a different perspective that I don't like your perspective.
Oh man, great. So today we're doing something a little different. We're switching it up a little bit. We always have our write-ins, but we think that being a year plus in, that this will be a good time to kind of go through our individual real love scenarios. and talk about our lives. And we talk to you guys so much. We offer perspective, we offer advice, we offer guidance, but we don't know, we tell our stories in the mix of what we're talking about when it comes to other scenarios, but we don't think that we have truly told our own stories about our love lives, our
so
love
true.
experiences, and what has gotten us to where we are today.
Yes.
So over these next 2 episodes, we're going to take the time to explore Rhonda's story and explore my story. This is Dre speaking. And just so you can get a little bit more insight about us, the people that you're listening to every single week. And hopefully there are things that you learn from this that you connect with.
Absolutely.
And I think there'll be insight that can be gained from our real life love experiences.
I am so excited about this, like nervously excited because I'm up first. And it's crazy because I have talked about myself before, but it never makes it any less awkward.
Yeah.
Never makes it any less awkward. And plus, like I feel like I'm about to have a very in-depth conversation with you, and y'all, the dynamic doesn't help because we sit like our set, like we sit facing each other. So it's like, what are you about to ask me? But it should be so good.
And the way the lighting is set up, it feels very interrogation.
It does. It does. And like we're filming, this might be TMI, we're filming in the evening today.
Yeah.
So it's like darker around us than normal. So it's like, all I need is some music like Rhonda. Dun, 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 dun. I just feel like, woo. But I trust Dre. And y'all know I'm very transparent. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I brought my water in case I get nervous.
And we just gonna wrap. So I'm gonna ask you the question I always ask everybody. What was your parents' marital status, and what was the greatest lesson you learned from your parents, whether good or bad? And we're gonna start there.
Okay. Easy one. So my parents were never married. My parents were together for 9 years total. From what I remember, like as far as I was told, they dated 7 years before I was born. And they met under really interesting circumstances.
Okay.
My mom knew my dad from like her neighborhood, but didn't kind of connect with him until they were a lot older because my mother was in a previous relationship with my brother's dad. And my mom never really liked my dad. She always found him to be like loud and a show off. And truly my dad is loud and he was a show off. And so, yeah, I think just partying, they like met, and he's very charismatic, and they just kind of hit things off from there. And went through a lot together, went through a lot of up and downs. Again, if this is your first time here, you may not have heard me say this before, but if it's not, you have heard me say that my father was an addict. So he was addicted to drugs majority of my life, that most of what I can remember. But I don't remember when he started, but my mother experienced a lot of that with him. And this was in the late 70s, early 80s when, drugs were super prevalent in Black communities. And so it certainly impacted my family in that way. And so that made their relationship hard. So a lot of back and forth and getting in trouble, a lot of back and forth with women because my dad was a womanizer, for sure.
How many kids does he have?
So my father has, look, I'm like, let me count, Jesus. My father has 6 biological children.
Okay.
And then 2 other children that he basically raised.
Okay.
So one of my biological brothers has 2 brothers, and they're my brothers too. So we've like, I don't even remember how old I was when I realized they were not my like birth, like blood brothers.
Wow.
Yeah, I was older when I found that out, like in my teens. So yeah, my dad had 6 biological kids with 6 different women.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in this situation, we had always talked, you say your father wasn't around all the time. Was it that it was the battle with the addiction, or more that he was more tending to the family relationships with his other children?
Oh, it was definitely his addiction.
Okay. So he wasn't present for any of their...
yeah, he was pretty much not active in any of our lives.
Okay.
He was in and out in a lot of our lives. And I think my youngest brother, Rashad, he certainly remembers some things, but I think he probably remembers my dad being the most active because he was so much younger when my father passed away, and he was not actively... Lord Jesus, let me not say too much. I don't believe he was actively dating my youngest brother's mother when my father passed.
Got you.
He might have been though, but he was also married and engaged, and there was a couple other
situations
at the funeral
entanglements.
Yes. So, but yes, I think Rashad probably remembers my dad most actively. The rest of us had him in and out, in and out, in and out. And then my brother Ryan had, I would say, the closest relationship with my dad, but mainly once Ryan was a man. Once he grew up, they like became best friends, like really, really good friends. So they were together like all the time. So Ryan had him a lot as an adult. And I think Rashad had him a lot more when he was a kid. And the rest of us had him in and out, in and out, in and out, all the way through.
Got you. So let's go back into the mindset of Rhonda at a younger age. Because we always talk about on this show, like people who stay together for the children, right? And people always look at it from an adult perspective and say, oh, this is what the kid wants, but never really ask like kids who grew up in that situation what they liked. Like, you know, I grew up where my parents were divorced ever since I could remember, and it was fine to me. I probably would have liked my parents to be together, but it didn't seem awkward or, you know, weird or anything like that because that's all I knew.
You knew, yeah.
So at that time when you were younger growing up and knowing the dynamic of your mom and dad situation, did it leave you wanting for them to be better or wanting, or was your mom, did she start dating somebody else at the time when you were younger? But how was that dynamic of mom, dad, or whoever your mom was dating, and how did that influence your view on relationships?
I definitely wanted my parents to be together.
Okay.
I feel like I can pretty distinctively remember wanting that. I don't necessarily remember expressing it. It's possible that I said it. My mother did marry when I was 10, I believe, and she dated him for a couple years before they got married. And that relationship ended bad. It probably, like looking back at it as an adult now, I think me and my mom have talked about enough of it to know that it probably really shouldn't have got off the ground. But yeah, that wasn't great. But yes, I wanted my parents to be together. And I also found that my parents had a cool relationship, right? Like, so I wasn't completely green to the idea that like my mom was frustrated with the burden, not so much the burden, the sacrifice that she had to make taking care of me, as well as my brother, as well as my cousins that my mother adopted. And so she was doing a lot by herself on not a lot of money, you know? So, but I saw her and my dad have this really cool relationship. My father was a mechanic, so that's really who she trusted with her car, with like friends' cars. A lot of times if she had to get something done and we would take she would take the car around, we would be together and they would joke and he would flirt and, you know, they would play around. And so it was like a fun relationship. So I felt like, well, if y'all could do that, it's not a possibility that you could date, you know. But my dad was still like in and out of his addiction. So my mother had been far removed from wanting to deal with that at that point. And then my mother was in another relationship with who I call my stepdad today, Mr. Winston. I think from the time I was probably, my math is probably gonna be bad, but I think like 13 to maybe 16 or so, somewhere around there. But during that time, he had such an impact on my life, which is why I still have a relationship with him today. Love him very much. He's a very positive male influence in my life. So unlike my stepdad, my first stepdad. Yes, my mother and Mr. Winston never married, but they had, from what I experienced, a really good relationship.
Got you. No, it's always interesting how you meet people like who are just super charismatic, like you say your dad is. And even though at moments you want to be mad at them when it comes to certain things, that just sometimes like being around them, you just like.
It was very hard to be mad at my father. Very hard. I think anybody listening to this that's like ever met him, like my family members, my grandmother, yeah, he just was so fun and so funny. And I'm not going to lie, even when he was lying, sometimes it just was like, damn, that was good. That was good. That was a good goddamn lie, Bobby. You said that. And he was entertaining. You know, he loved storytelling. And so even if, again, some parts of the story were embellished, it was like good because it made for the story to be really, really good.
For sure.
Yeah,
so was Mr. Winston the first healthy relationship that you saw? Your relationship, the relationship with Mr. Winston and your mom?
Yeah, I would say so. It's like the first healthy relationship that I can recall.
And that moment, how did you know it was, I guess, healthy? Like, what made you be like, this is good? Like,
yeah, I felt like I didn't hear them fight. And that was something that I remembered from my mother's previous relationship, that they just argued a lot and we heard it a lot, no matter how much my mother tried to protect us from it and send us outside or whatever, or like those quiet fights, but you can still hear it's like, you need to stop playing with me. You know what I'm saying? Like you can still hear that. I just don't remember them doing that. I also felt like Mr. Winston was very, like, he was involved with us, you know, like he had picked up photography as a hobby and he would take photos of us and like show us how to use the camera and stuff like that. So I just felt like he was a team player. Like I felt like he was there to help my mother, you know, like help her. And he didn't have kids, you know, he didn't have children. And I think at some point he might have wanted to, but he never treated us like, oh, those are your kids. You know, he was hands-on. And like I said, he still is very much hands-on. Like what you need, where you at, let's hang out, you know. So yeah, I think so. I think it would definitely the first one.
So overall, with your mom and dad, what do you feel like is the greatest lesson about love that you learned?
Oh, yes, that could part of the question. I would say
good or bad.
Well, let's start with bad. Bad is to not ignore red flags, because my father came in the door with many, for sure, and my mother saw them, but I think thought that she could love him through them, around them, and show him a different way. And she just stayed and stayed and stayed. I think my mother also, like I said, those unique circumstances they met under, I think my mother thought, you know, she got caught up in the thing a lot of young women do, just like I did. You believe that you're better than, because he's selling you that story, and you're there to like save him from this bad life he's in and this bad situation he's in, and you fall victim to that. So I think that's the biggest lesson, is to not fall for the okie doke. And my father showed me a lot of the okie doke because he did it majority of my life. Like not only hearing it from my mother later in life, I witnessed it. And then the good that I learned from them is to never speak ill of the other parent. They both were very cognizant of that. My mother never talked bad about my father. She never made me think he was a bad dad. In fact, she would always, I don't want to say make excuses for him, but she always made room for me to love him. Always. Like if I wanted to express that I loved him or I missed him, she didn't rebut that with like, well, he should be here. You miss him so much. Where is he? You know, she did not do that. She always made sure that I spent time with his family so that I could know that side of my family, and also with hopes that I could see him, because addiction is weird. You know, like he could be running from my mother, but at my aunt's. So potentially if my mother let me go with my aunt, then maybe I would see my dad, you know? So she did a lot of things to try to make sure we had a relationship. So they were good about each other, even not being in front of each other. And I appreciate them for that.
Got you. Yeah. No, I love everything that you said. I think that's important. And what came to my head with the first thing you said about like not ignoring red flags is that if a red flag is going to change to a green flag, you can't be the one to change it for somebody. That person has to uproot that flag and put a green flag down. And I feel like that happens to a lot of us, that we feel like, oh, I can help this person, or like I can change this flag for them, or I can make this red thing a green thing. And it's like, you alone cannot do nothing.
No love.
It takes that person to do that. Can you influence? Yes. Can you foster an environment to help somebody change? For sure. Understand it does come with its challenges, and you may get some bruises if you get down. I told Bree this the other day. I was like, because I'm going to get into detail with the situation, but I was like, if you're trying to help somebody out of mess, a lot of times you're going to get messy too.
Hello, you're going to get dirt on your hands too.
You're going to get dirt on your hands too. Yeah. And you just have to understand that, because sometimes you may have the best intentions of helping somebody, but if they in mess, a lot of times you probably got to get in that mess too if you're trying to drag them out of it. Somebody drowning and you trying to save them, a lot of times you got to jump in that water to help drag them out.
You hit the nail on the head, man. That's
Um,
very true. Very true. And my mother definitely learned
she
the
got
hard
messy.
way. She got very messy. She got very messy. And man, not to get too far into it, but my mother told me a story one time that she got so pushed to the edge in the situation with her and my dad that she almost lost her life and almost took his life. Like it had gotten that bad. And I'm thinking to myself, imagine how different my life would be.
Oh, for sure.
If my mother killed my dad and then went to jail for it.
For sure.
I wouldn't be here today. My life would be completely derailed. Prayerfully, I would have still found my way, because that was going to happen when I was a baby when my mother was going to do that. But to think like what was going on in your mind to make you feel that was the answer. Like she was in the car, like in a cab, and just was upset, and the cab driver talked her down from doing it. My life would have been so different. So it's like, yeah, that's, you see what I mean? Like that's a lot of a mess.
For sure.
And that's when she really knew, like, I can't do this. I got 2 babies that depend on me. I can't do this with him. So that was pretty much the end of it.
And like that's why, like you said, ignoring the red flags, that's why it's so important. You got to pay attention to those signs, because when emotions are involved, like we like to say all the time what we would do in certain situations, but once you get in it and the emotions are flying, like you don't know what you would do or what lengths you would go to defend what you feel like you need to defend, to stand up for what you feel like you want to stand up for. So that's such great advice. Also the good advice and not talking down about people is so good. My parents were divorced, and that was always a thing too, that they never did. And I really appreciate them for that. And I always think it takes a certain level of like discipline, putting ego and pride to the side in order to do that for your kids. In a past episode, I have recently talked about the show Invasion, and it's a spoiler alert. Don't listen if you haven't watched the show. But basically, I tell you about the dad cheating. And later throughout the show, the dad died, and he got shot because he stood up for his family. And me and Brie are like, that ain't ish dude, like doing all these things, like, but the kids are like crying, daddy, daddy, daddy. And I was like, man, I know it would take everything in you to be like, y'all crying over this man, and he was ready to leave us for another woman, leave our entire situation. But the thing is that she didn't say anything because you're preserving the image of that man for the kids. And that takes a lot of discipline and like really pushing pride to the side, because sometimes I could imagine you might be calling for daddy when you're with your mom, and she's just like, really? I wish he was here too. Yeah, for real. So I applaud your mom for that. Yes. And that's
she
awesome.
Deserves all the flowers, man. She does.
So let's go a little bit forward. So that was the foundation, things that you saw at the house. Tell me about your first love.
Ooh, my first love. Damn, I'm going to just go to high school because there was probably one before that, but it doesn't really count.
It don't really count.
No, my first love was Nick, and I met Nick through my church basketball league. Okay. I grew up Adventist for the most part, and Nick was not Adventist, but he was really good at basketball. He went to Curley, which is like a popular private school here in Baltimore, with a great basketball program. And so my pastor would go around to different schools and watch games, and Nick was one of the players on that high school team. So he recruited him to come play for our church.
Got you.
So it was
sound a little illegal in the church league, but we passed it now.
Right, he was not a church member, but it was like
statutes of limitations.
We gonna win this year. We going to the schools to recruit the kids. Boy, love Jesus. Okay, this way, come play for this team. So that's how I met him, and it was just puppy love. I mean, like teenager love, cute. It didn't take a lot. Like he was cute. He was a little older, but he was so sweet and so like respectful. He came from like a 2-parent household. He grew up in Baltimore, but like different, like I grew up in the inner city. I grew up in the hood, and he did not. He grew up on the borders of the county. He went to a private school. So he was very different. And so I had a different experience when I would like be at his house or whatever. It just was different. And so with him being a little older than me, I think Nick was 3 years older than me. So if I'm 16, I think when I met him, I was 16. So he's 2 years older than me. He was like a senior in high school. So my mom had a lot of hesitation about that because she felt like while y'all are kind of close in age, he's about to go to college and you're still in high school.
Yeah.
But Nick loved God and all the things. But ultimately, he just was really jealous, like really, really jealous. Like, and it boiled over once I graduated high school and we wound up being at the same college at Morgan together. And he was just like a lot. Like I could not do much of anything without him flipping out about it. Or people would look at me if I was walking across the yard and he would just catch an attitude and like spaz out. We had this little ceremony in his house, in his closet, in his bedroom.
Okay.
This was like our marriage ceremony.
Oh wow. How long were you together?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, because that was like my junior and senior year, like the end of my junior year, senior year, and then my first year of college. We were basically together. And so we had this little ceremony where we called ourselves like, God will honor the marriage whether we get a license or not. Like,
Rhonda was in love.
I was in love. Okay, our wedding song was "Can You Stand the Rain" by New Edition. I like, you remember the cards back in the day where you could record a song into the card?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got one of them joints. So we had this whole thing. So once that happened, he very much was like, he possessed me. Like, you mine. You remember the little ceremony in that closet? And so, yeah, that baby was just a little too much for me. And I was going to say his last name earlier, but I'm glad I did not because no shade. I don't want no beef. He was a sweet man, but it just was a lot. It was too much for a 19-year-old to be dealing with.
You didn't want to drop a Scott Cunningham on the
little baby. No, he was a lot. But he was sweet. He was sweet. Went to my senior prom with me. All of that.
So how did that experience with him kind of shape your outlook on dating after that relationship? Because I know that a lot of times, before you get into something serious, you have your theories on what you would want and what you would like, and you're somewhat emulating things that you see, whether on TV or whether in your own house. And sometimes you're like, I want to do that, and then you're looking at other things like I don't want that. Yeah. But until you actually have something real, that's when you're able to put all those theories and everything into practice. But now after that experience you had, now you have some real love and real world experience on like how dating actually is. Did you stay on campus at Morgan or were you?
I didn't. Okay. No, I didn't stay on campus and neither did he. He lived really close to the school.
Got you. But you kind of had an adult relationship like outside of that. But now that that's over, how did that shape your viewpoint of relationships after that? Was it like F these dudes or was it more like, I don't know. What was your thought process?
I think I didn't experience the F these dudes thing until I was older. Like that didn't happen for me until probably a few years ago, if I'm being honest with you. I was, and I still am in my core a romantic, hopeless romantic. I love love. I've always wanted marriage for sure. I think the only thing that changed once I started dating after that relationship though, was to be really hypersensitive to possessiveness. So any situation I got into after that, I was like, anything that slightly resembled you trying to control me, like I would get really like tense about that, or I would come into the dating situations on some, this ain't that.
So what are those red flags, especially for people listening, that are things that you could look out for that shows like somebody may be super possessive?
Yeah. So some of the things that he would do, he would make me feel bad when I wanted to do things without him. So if I wanted to like go to movies with my friends, if I wanted to just spend time with my family, he would make it seem like I was doing something to hurt him. He would have like really emotional tantrums when we would be together, when he was explaining himself about things where I'm like, well, why are you being this way? It was just always a tactic to keep me tethered to him. Like if I'm like, oh, well, I've been over here the last 2 days, I'm gonna go home and blah, blah, blah. It would be like, but I just like love you so much. And it's just like stuff in my family. And I'm just like, oh man, at the time I'm like, what's wrong? I don't want to do. But it was just always a means of keeping me tied to him. He would be overly clear about, like, around people, that I was his girl. Like, not just on a normal, we just hold hands walking across the yard. It's like, if we're passing guys, he's got to grab me up tighter, or put his arm around me tighter. Or, like I said, he would say stuff to them. He would wait for us to pass and then look back to see if they're looking back. And then he would say something like, is something wrong with your eyes, guy? Like, what's up with you? Like, can't you see that this is my girl? It was just, his was not very covert. That's the thing. Like, it was like, hello, he's a problem. He's a problem. So yeah, I think he never wanted me to be almost out of his sight, or if I was, he always knew where I was. Like, or I felt like I was always on the clock with him. So yeah, he just wanted to control me too much and isolate me from the other people in my life.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it was controlling. It was controlling. Like I said, he was sweet though. So you wouldn't think, he would just use really sweet tactics sometimes to do it.
But that's a great way of understanding how it works. And I always tell people that, right? Like, when you look at history, that history gives you one or the other, right? Mm-hmm. Either you're a net positive or a net negative. Mm-hmm. Either you're evil or you're good. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about all the in between and how you get there, right? Like Hitler, he was evil. Mm-hmm. Well, how you get all these people to follow him?
Right.
There must have been some redeeming quality in there that made people like him somehow, some way, that we just don't look at or factor in. It's just that he was evil. Mm-hmm. And I'm not doubting that, because what he did was wrong, but there was something in there that made people feel that way. Yeah. And I feel that that's an interesting perspective when it comes to possessiveness, because when you think possessiveness, you think wrong, evil, but you don't think of the sweetness that's in that, right?
Yes.
That playing victim, it's like, I only feel this way because I want to be closer to you. Yes. I want to be connected to you. Yeah. I don't want any man to come up to you because I value you so much and you're just my world. Yeah. And it's like, that sounds sweet.
You're like, oh, right, this is exactly what I want. Yeah. Oh, God, it always wants to be with me, until you're like,
no, this is manipulation and control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I can't imagine going through something like that.
And again, this is my perspective. Sometimes I think I underestimate how many people listen to our show, even though I know that they do. So if this somehow comes across, this is my perspective, this is my experience, this is what I recall from it.
Got you. So you said that growing up, you always been, you say a romantic, but do you mean that you always like wanted to be in a relationship, basically, versus like
always?
So they say that now we use the term hot girl summer, but every woman has to have that experience to where they explore, have fun, live life, be free before they actually settle down into a real thing. Are you a believer of that first? And do you remember that time for you, or did you have that moment to where you're just like, forget about it. I'm not worried about no dude. I'm just about to enjoy my life. I'm just about to have fun, do what I'm going to do. If that involves sleeping with somebody, that's sleeping with somebody. Like, I'm just going to go with the flow versus like trying to plan everything out so much.
Yeah. I definitely had that moment. The first part of your question, do I think that it's necessary? No, I just think it depends on the person. Okay. Like, it just depends on you. If you just got that feeling inside of you where you like, I got to get this out of me, then that's your thing. I don't think everyone's like that. I don't think I was necessarily like that. I think something or experiences pushed me there. Yes, I think they encouraged me to just be like, you know what? I'm going to just take the pressure off. Since relationships aren't working for me, I'm just going to have fun. I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to date him, and I'm going to date him, and I'm going to date him, and just see how these three situations go on. I mean, I remember one time I was like dating three guys at once, and I was sleeping with one, but I was dating three of them. So to some degree, I was enjoying that, because I actually do like going out on dates. Even when I'm in a relationship, I love having different experiences. I don't go on dates if I don't plan to have a good time. Like, gotcha. I'm not like going on dates to get fed.
I was about to say, one sex partner, 2 meal vouchers.
No.
That's how some girls be looking at it.
It's true. It's like, I gotta eat lunch and dinner, and breakfast.
I'm hungry.
Let me call food too. That's what he saved as in the phone. Food daddy number 2. No, but I had fun like with all of them. But I liked like, oh, I got a job, and I feel like I had a part-time job. Like, who I'm tonight, so it was definitely fun, but I would not have preferred to do that necessarily, but it was necessary in the moment. I had fun, like I said, so I don't regret anything about it. I do think I learned a lot about myself during that time. I learned a lot about what I don't want, and it was short-lived because I also, while it felt initially like, oh yes, go to work, then come home and go to work, like it got tiring. It got tiring, like keeping up with those conversations, because it's not just, oh, I just see you on Tuesday night and I look cute and you look good and we just had a good time. It's the in-between talking. It's the, how was your day? Okay, I talked to him about how his day was. And I got to talk to him about how, it just wasn't for me. That's just a little too much. So I was like, yeah, that was fun. I'm good.
If you can remember, were the relationships that led to that mindset, was it just like bad breakups, or were you just
Yes.
like, all these?
Yeah, it was bad breakups. It was like after a breakup, I'm just like my breakup before the relationship that I talk about the most on this podcast. The relationship before that was the first man I ever lived with. It was the first time I ever like moved into an apartment with someone we moved into a place together. And that breakup was bad, and it went on for a long time because we broke up and then we like got back together and then we broke up again, and it was cheating and it was just like a lot. And so after that, I was like, I'm outside. As we say now, I'm outside. Like, so I think because I wanted to get out or get back at him through others, which was certainly a harmful thing to do. But it felt rewarding in the moment. It definitely did. And don't get me wrong, after we like went through a lot of the things we went through in that relationship, we both cheated within the relationship. But once we broke up, I found out so many things. Like I found out he was doing so much shit inside of our relationship that I was like, oh, word. Oh, not okay. Watch this. Watch this. Yeah, like so yes, I can't even say it was a whole phase. It just was
Exploratory.
That, and I just didn't have feelings. I was like kind of numb to worrying about what a guy felt or anything like that. Like it was times where I was very cold and callous and like, boy, whatever. You ain't nothing but a liar. That mindset that one person does something wrong, so everybody's doing wrong things.
Let me tell you, when women adopt that mindset, have that mindset, it throws guys off, because that is not what we're expecting. Yeah. I remember I've met women who just wanted to sleep with me and nothing else, like literally no desire to do anything else but to do that.
It threw you for a loop.
Or it threw me for a loop. Or like the first night, they like ready to get down, and I'm just like,
oh wow.
Didn't think
Aren't
this was all I was gonna have to. But sometimes people be in certain mindsets and certain times in their life to where they're just like, I'm just gonna go with the flow. Yeah. I'm just gonna be free. I'm not gonna think about it too much. I'm just gonna see what happens. And you never know first how they got to that place and what put them in that mindset. So it's just very interesting.
I would have never thought that I would have been in that mindset. If you told me before that I would be like that, never. I wouldn't have believed it for myself, and I wouldn't have believed it for women, because like you, I was thinking like all girls want to be in a fairy tale marriage and just happy and with a man. That's what we all want. And it wasn't until I felt it for myself, like, actually, not right now.
I'm not messing with y'all whole gender.
I'm good. I'm getting from you what I want, and not anything more than that, kind gentleman. Thank you.
No, that's so interesting. So question I want to ask you is, I know that a lot of women that I talk to have not necessarily done this, but most women that I know, they tend to date older, right? So I want to know first, I know from our personal relationship that you dated men who are older than you, but I just want to know the difference and the experiences of dating a man older versus dating a man younger than you. Because I know that you've had both of those experiences. But also it's like, I remember growing up that a lot of times girls in high school would be dating these older dudes, like inappropriate relationship, be like 16 dating a 23-year-old, or like crazy. 17 dating a 21-year-old. Did you ever have any of those type of things? Definitely. And what was like, just as you got older, in age, and you started to have those relationship dynamics, what was that like dating older and younger at the different ages that you were at?
Yeah, so I did unfortunately have a situation where I was underage dating someone that was much older than me. And dating, I use that term loosely just for the purpose of the conversation. I was
Yeah.
certainly in a situation that I shouldn't have been in. I was being manipulated, all of the things.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so and that didn't ring to me until later in life, that like that was some creepy ass shit, like
Yeah.
that was not cool. Of course in the moment I'm like, oh, I got an older man
That's
into
how they
me.
always be.
Yeah, you think it's cute, but it's disgusting. And it was things about that like I wish I could get them out my mind. Like I wish I could burn those out my head. I just simply cannot. So that was a really bad experience with dating older. Majority of the men that I've dated have been older than me to some capacity, whether it's a couple years. The oldest is 18 years older than me. And when I met him, I was 31. And he was 49, so at that time I felt like it was such a breath of fresh air, because it wasn't just that he was older, it was that we were so different in many ways that were welcomed. He was a father of two adults, and so he had just had so much perspective on life from raising children, specifically girls. So some part of me was drawn to him because of how good of a dad he was. And that's something that I wanted in a man, but it's also something that I wanted from my own dad. So I loved seeing him be involved with his kids. The other really great perspective he brought was just cultural differences. He was what I would consider like a very traditional man, quote unquote. So he was very focused on like things being organized, and he was the breadwinner, and he took on the heavier financial things in our lives, and he introduced me to different things that I didn't know anything about. He would challenge my mind that had been in really like negative relationships. He would undo those things by introducing different perspective, but also just like being very gentle with me. He was very, very gentle with me. He was a gentle person to begin with. Everybody that knew him loved him. So he's very gentle with me, and I appreciated that because he was the first man that didn't like use words to hurt me. He did not strike me down to attack like my insecurities. I never felt bad about being vulnerable with him. And so, that was great. So you see, like there's an extreme difference of it being a good versus a bad thing when it's done at the right time in life. As far as my experience with younger guys, very, very, very few of those. None were relationships.
Situationships.
They were all situationships or less than that. And probably the best thing I got out of a younger guy was like really great sex. That's probably the best thing. Best thing I can say came of that. Like they was cool, but they was fun.
Yeah.
yeah. He was fun. Yes. But that's it. That's pretty much it. Mindset just was too different. Way
you're
too
not
different.
Closed off to that being a possibility.
Not at all. It's just not too far.
Not too far.
I'll be 40 in a couple weeks. Yeah, I don't think I can go below 5.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would even be hard.
That would be because that's a different point of life for a man.
35 to 40 is like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like mature, cool. Yes.
Yeah. But I want to go back to the man you were referencing earlier. We're going to call him Mr. Mature.
Okay.
Just for the reference of this conversation.
Sure.
Because for most of the time I've known you, you were with Mr. Mature. And I know that was, would you say it's the most impactful relationship in your life, or one of the most impactful like relationships in your life? So the age difference was how long?
18
years.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like how you met him and what made you be like, I'm going to take this chance or date this man who's a lot older than me versus, holding out for maybe somebody a little bit closer to my age, and then also thinking what the future could look like? What was it that made you be like, this is the person? Because for a long time, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you thought this might be forever.
Yes.
This is your forever person.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love telling this story, but I'm going to tell the short version because it can get long. But I relocated from Baltimore to Montgomery County for a job.
Yeah.
I was doing my very first lease up. In our world, that's basically an empty new construction building that you have to fill up with people or lease up. And some benchmarks in a lease up is certainly getting like a record number of leases in a week. But it's also when you lease your high point units, like your highest price units or your nicest units, those are sometimes the units that are the hardest to move.
For sure.
And the building was not even like taking occupancy yet. And within a few weeks of just the stuff being out on the market, I leased like my most expensive 1-bedroom apartment to a person that never came into the office, like did not tour. So I was like, and the pictures of the unit were nice and the unit was nice. And I'm like, this is great. Like, I cannot wait to tell my boss about this. This is how we get the ball rolling. And this was my first one. So I had a lot to prove. And so when I'm looking at his application, like everything checks out. And then I see that he like works in DC and he lives in Silver Spring, which is in Montgomery County. And I'm like, why did he lease this without seeing it when he lives like down the street? It's very strange. So I called, reached out to set up a tour. He was just like, the pictures were enough for me. I know it's a new building. I only saw one of these. That's why I jumped on it. I do want to see it. Sets up a tour, comes in, nothing, like he was cool. Like it was nothing. Mm-hmm. Nice tour. He liked the apartment, but it was a 1-bedroom. And he was like, but I have 2 daughters and they're young women, but they visit and I want them to be comfortable. Do you have something similar to this? So y'all, I already got him on the most expensive 1-bedroom apartment. I'm like, I got the 2. I got the 2-bedroom. It's a little bit more, but let's see how he feels about it. And I show it to him and he loved it. And he was like, I think I'm gonna do this one. I think I'm gonna just take this one. And I'm like, boom, like lock him in. So we're walking through now the amenity spaces. And this was when I first, like, he like said something during the tour that made me be like, is he flirting with me? He said like, this place is so nice. I feel like it's going to be I feel like you're bringing a lot of joy to my life with showing me all of this stuff. And I was like, that was such an elaborate way to say that, like that you like the place. Just say you like the place. And that was that. He leaves. Yeah. We lock everything in, pays his deposit, all the things. The next day, I get a bouquet of flowers to my office, and I'm dating a guy at the time. So I assume that they're from him, but then I see the card, and it says, someone, no note technically, just signed someone. And I'm like, oh, the guy that I'm dating go.
I was about to say, did you think it was the guy that you was dating?
No, I did when I saw the flowers. Once I saw the card, I was like, can't be him because he's too arrogant to not put his name on it. He would totally say his name. Yeah, girl.
He would have been texting you. Did you get them things? I said
sent them things with a singing telegram. Who, baby, is he from me, girl? You better say thank you. Yeah, he'd have done all of that. So I was like, someone, okay, whatever. Next day, I get another bouquet of flowers, and it says something like, thank you, someone. So I'm like, so I did something for this person. Still, just not quite enough. Now, the man who I went on the tour with, who was slightly flirting and rented the really expensive apartment, he sent me an email like, this is going to be my move-in date. And then he said something again similar to that first that comment. Like, he was like, you're already changing my life so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. Get another bouquet of flowers. 4 days go by, I get a bouquet of flowers every day. And they all are signed from someone. And the notes get a little longer, but it's still very cryptic. And I don't know who it is. So I'm telling all my friends at this point, like, y'all, who do you think this is? Like, it's got to be from a man. Like, who's the man? Like, you sure it's not the man? And I was scared to ask the guy I'm dating because, well, if it's not him, he could be like, so who's sending the flowers to you? So I asked the guy. I asked the man I was on, Mr. Mature, who I didn't know was Mr. Mature yet. But I was like, I'm so scared to ask him because I would have been embarrassed if he was like, no, I ain't send you them flowers, girl. You the leasing, you the property manager. Relax. So I was like, hey, did you send me flowers? Like, because one of the notes said thank you, and he was like, no. And I was like, oh, my bad. And he was like, why would you think I sent you the flowers? I was like, well, like I said, one of the notes said thank you. And he was like, well, if I sent you flowers, I would say that it was me. He was like, well, clearly the person doesn't want you to know who they are if they keep writing someone. So I'm just like, all right, then bet, my bad. Chill. And then I think I got another bouquet of flowers, and he called me. And he was like, it was me. It's been me the whole time. This probably seems weird, but I would like to take you on a date. And I told him no, because he was about to be my resident. And I did not want the conflict. I was like, I don't know. And I also didn't feel no sparks when I met him, So I was like, no. And then all my friends called me stupid. And like, this man is like sending you flowers. These aren't from the grocery store, baby. These are like florist flowers. And I called him back and I told him yes. He wasn't moving in for like another 60 days. Like I said, it was a new building. And the first date was so nice, like a perfect gentleman. Picked me up for the date. That's probably the last time that happened, that I like let somebody pick me up for a date.
Yeah, not in these days and ages.
But I did meet him at the job.
Gotcha.
To pick me up. Planned out really nice. He was a perfect gentleman. And yeah, I know that was the short version of the very long story, but we started dating from there. And I basically told him like, hey, listen, when you move in this building, this job is super important to me. Like, again, first lease up, I got a lot to prove. I don't want you telling people that you're dating me. I don't want you coming to my office during business hours. Like, unless it's really for your apartment, I want to keep the lines like super duper clear. And he respected that the entire time we were together, and the entire time we lived there, because I ultimately moved into the building too. So he was my boo, my resident, and my neighbor, which was a lot, but it was good. It was great. It was great.
When you first saw him, you said you weren't physically attracted to him?
I wasn't.
So you do believe that can grow over time?
Not really. Yes. Yikes.
Oh, what outweigh? I mean, because I think that's something that maybe people go through. We even last episode we talked about Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons, and that time and what it took. Was she initially attracted to him in the beginning? Was she not?
Yes.
Like, who knows?
Yeah.
So like when you go into entering into a relationship, there's always that question of 10% versus the 90%. If 90% is good, but 10% is that you're not attracted to them, can that relationship still work? Can you grow that attraction? Like, how do you deal with those situations when you're in that?
Yeah, so I answered the question hastily. I was specifically talking about physical attraction.
Physical, yeah.
So yes, that not so much. But yes, I grew to be very attracted to him. I was very much in love with him because of just how he showed up in the world. Like I say, he was a very gentle man. He was the first man that I saw be so powerful, but not toxic, but not like in the type of way. He was very charismatic, but in a kind way, not in a manipulative way. He was hardworking and smart, very, very smart, very articulate, loved to read books. He was generous to his mother and everybody around him. So me watching him like this, it's like, oh yeah, like he's so nice. He's so like good to me. One of the first things he said to me when we were just like dating, like we didn't live together or anything yet. Maybe like 2 weeks into us dating, before we got off the phone, he asked if like we could pray together, and we started doing that pretty much every night on the phone until we pretty much lived together. And then another thing with with the flowers, like that continued every single week of the entire time we were together up until
attest.
Yes.
Working with Rhonda, flowers would come every single week.
Yes. And by the time you and I started working together, him and I had been together for probably 2.5 years at that point. I think there were only a few times that didn't happen. And that was towards the end when the relationship was starting to get a little wonky. But even when I would travel and I would go out of town for like work or vacation, he would send me flowers when I was away. So he's very romantic. He was just a loving, loving man. So yes, I grew to be very attracted to his spirit, to his character, and ultimately just like to him. The only little piece was that physical piece. It never fully turned the tide.
Never fully turned. I want to get to that too, but also I want to touch on being with someone who has kids. And I always hear some people, like I had a friend who, and I never thought about it from this way. He was like, I was like, would you date a woman with a kid? He was like, how's the kid? And he was like, if they're above like 10 or something like that, like, yeah, I'm cool. Because I guess the older, it's like, all right, they are who they are, you know, and then they're a few years from being out, or if they're 16, 17, like I'm cool with that because they about to be their own person, do their own thing. And I always thought like, oh, if you really love somebody and you're dating them, you want it to be little, so the kid knows you ever since they're little, and you kind of have an
That's a good
influence in their
point.
life.
Mm-hmm.
But how was that dating a man who, you know, had kids or the kids were adult kids? I know that you didn't necessarily have to be in the house with them, but were you cognizant of your impression on them and
Yes.
maybe like them being close in age to you and what they
Yes.
thought?
Yes. I was so nervous to meet them for the first time. We were having dinner at his house, and I was like, I was so on edge. I was saying to him, like, do you really think they're going to like me? Like, cause I'm like so much younger than you. Like, I'm closer in their age. I think we were 10 years apart, 10 and 11 years apart, because his daughters were a year apart, year and a half apart.
You were 10 years older?
I was 10 years older than them.
Okay.
And he's 18 years older than me.
Yeah.
So he was like, they're gonna be fine. They're great. They're great girls. I'm like, I'm not talking about
Your
if they are
daughters to
great
you.
girls. I'm talking about if they gonna like me. And he was like, let me tell you this. And this is something I will never forget. He said, I like you. I love you. While my daughter's thoughts are important to me, they will not make or break this decision. Like, so if that's your fear, like if my kids don't gravitate towards you immediately, they are grown, they are adults. If they don't, oh well.
Mhm.
What I know of you is what I like and what I love. So he made that really clear, and that really like eased it, because I think that was a part of it for me. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have been okay if they didn't like me. It wasn't because I'm not a likable person. I just was so scared that they were going to look at me like, what you want with our daddy?
Yeah.
What you over here doing, you little
Mhm.
Jezebel? You 5 minutes older than us. What you want with him?
She took my money.
Yeah, like they.
What you doing here?
Yeah, what you doing here? And when I say hit it off, hit it off like that. The nerves were gone within like 10 minutes. It was,
Awesome.
and I think a part of that really was because we were close in age. It really was because we could identify or talk on certain things. They also were, as he was too, African but American, like born in America, but very like his father was Nigerian. He grew up in Nigeria. My ex grew up in Nigeria. His kids were fully American born, 2 generations kind of sort of removed. And his perspectives on certain things were just like from his culture. I mean, from his generation.
Yeah.
I'm closer in age to them. So we would be sitting there like, all 3 of us looking at him like, what are you talking about? Like, we were very connected to the point where I called them my besters, which was like a combined word of best friends and daughters. Nice. Yes. So I love them. I miss them. You know, we had a great relationship, and ultimately one of his daughters did live with us for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I think that as you as they looked at their father, they probably knew their dad well enough to know if he was making an introduction to somebody, that it was somebody that he really did care about. So now, as you go through that relationship, it was a total of how much?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. And we talk about how it got to the point to where you're now single and, you know, the relationship ended. Kind of however you want to walk us through how it unfolded and what truly happened.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Please don't judge, because it could get ugly.
This is a learning lesson for everybody.
It's beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So with that whole age difference and all the goodness and greatness, every relationship comes with its own challenges.
For sure.
And with me not having a very strong physical connection to him, one, I read that as not as a flag. I really didn't, because that was something that I used to guide a lot of my decisions prior to him. If I was really attracted to a guy, sometimes I would get intoxicated by that. Like, he was good looking to me, sex was great, but he was this, that, and the third, and just how he looked and that sex was keeping me locked into that thing. So when that wasn't a thing for us, I was like, this is refreshing. You know, like, I feel like I can approach sex and that dynamic normal. I can do this out of a place of love and not of lust. And I had warped that in my head to make me think that this was going to be so good. And I thought that over time, the more I grew attracted to him, it would come around. Like, I would physically come around to it. And we waited for 3 months before we had sex, for the first time in our relationship, which was something that was his idea. And again, I welcomed it like, wow,
right.
He don't want no cookies right up front. He taking me on dates and everything, like taking me on vacation and everything. Like took me on vacation one time and like we had the same room but separate beds. Even when we would sleep together, like sleep in the bed together, if he stayed the night, he would wear like appropriate clothing so he wouldn't feel like he was putting it on, no pressure. So I was just like, yes. But then Dre, it just over time, it never came around. Like that feeling never came around. And so now we're in the swing of having sex, but it's detached. Like we're doing it, but I don't feel particularly inspired or satisfied. He does, but that starts to wear off too. And he basically brings it to my attention. Like, do you remember the last time we had sex? And I was like, like a few days ago. And he was like, it was not a few days ago. And I'm like, it could not have been that long ago. And he was like, it was a month. It was a month ago. And I was like,
well,
wow. Time flies, doesn't it?
So at that time, you had just made up in your mind that this just won't be a part of the relationship.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Not a big part of it.
Not a big part of it.
No.
And you had come to terms with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I had come to terms
okay
with
marrying him and moving forward, knowing that that wouldn't be a thing.
Mm-hmm. Because again, I was like, this is a good man, Savannah. This is a good man. He is 90-10, not 80-20. He is this, he is that, he is that. Pfft. I done had enough dick. You know, like this is really my crazy mindset. But also, and there's no shade to my friends, but my friends had a big influence on it
that,
too. Because when I would talk to them, this was also new for me. So I'm like, what am I, girl? I'm not getting.
And they out here in the streets like, girl, you better hold on to that.
Okay, you're like, listen, he is sweet. He is nice. Even when we're around, he's like, what y'all need, what y'all want. He's accommodating. He makes our home comfortable when we would receive people. So everybody loved him so much, me included. So talking to them was like talking to his cheerleading squad. Like, shut your mouth, take that coochie in that house and give it to him. Because he deserves it, you know? So, but it wouldn't work. And when he brought it to my attention, like I felt bad. So now I realize I'm going into a cycle of having obligatory sex with my man.
Yeah.
Like I am having sex with him, like remembering like, okay, I have to have sex with him because it's been a few days now and he deserves it.
It felt more of a chore than an actual desire.
And not to get like too like descriptive, but I even started just only doing it in certain positions because it allowed me to just get through it more. Like a lot of times running back because I just didn't have a connection with him in that way. So it would feel very awkward. Only at night. The best sex for a period of time was when I would go out because I done had a couple drinks. So I'm coming home and I'm like, you about to get it, boy. And it even got to a point where he was like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that. You come home, you done had a couple drinks, you feeling real spicy and saucy because I know, I can tell the difference. We have sex totally different. And I was like, none of my tricks, nothing is working. I'm not getting like psychedelically tricking him into like, this is okay. And it went on like that for a long time though, to the point where like he said to me like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like if I'm doing something wrong, why don't you just tell me? And I was like, I can't tell you because I don't think you're doing anything wrong. Like you were putting your best foot forward. I just am not, it's just not working for me. So it was hard. It was very hard. Like I would literally pray and probably shouldn't have been praying to God to fix the sex in my non-married relationship. But you know, I just loved him so much. And this was, like I said, the first man who earned my love in the most beautiful way possible. And why couldn't I perform for him?
Yeah.
Like of all the men that I should have tucked these cookies in for
sure.
He's not one. The gate should just be flying open for him. And so I would cry. I would pray like, God, please, like just when I wake up in the morning, just fix it. Like fix it. Fix me. Like it's the ghetto. It's the bad things. It's all the bad experiences. It's my negative association to sex. And like, I had, unfortunate situations with sexual abuse in my life. And I'm like, whatever those things are that are having this bad influence on how I used to think about sex and who deserved it, please take that away from me. Because I wanted to do this for him like so badly. And it broke my heart that I could never do it for him. Never do it for him. I'll never forget the day we sat on our couch in the living room and he was like, I just want to have a really honest conversation with you. And I just want you to like tell me exactly what it is. Like, not this cute answer, not what you think I want to hear. None of that shit you've been telling me that you're working on it and it's just you and you in your head and all that. Like, for real. And I told him the truth that like, I'm not, it's a disconnect. Like, I'm not naturally attracted to you in that way. And it's probably nothing that you could do about it. And his face, it was like, you remember Mortal Kombat when he would go in the chest and snatch the heart out? That's what I felt like I did. In this whole be honest with me, I was like, the man asked me for honesty and I gave it to him, but I don't think that that's what he was thinking I was going to say. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end of our relationship.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough because then the weird part, not technically weird, but weird for us, that was when the whole open relationship dynamic was introduced, and almost as a means to save our relationship. And in the moment, I didn't think that that's what it was, but I later learned that that was like
last ditch effort
and a really, really, really bad effort because it pretty much tore us apart. It was one of the, I wish we had never done it. I don't have a lot of regrets about anything in life. That's one thing I very much wish we never did. For sure. Nope, it wasn't for us. It wasn't. And that's also not something you should do to save your relationship. I've said that on here before when someone talked about that or wrote in about that. Threesomes, bringing other people into your bedroom to save your relationship. Really, really, really bad idea. If it's something you all just like, you think it might be sexy or cool, great, knock yourselves out. But bringing a person in because you're trying to put a Band-Aid on something, super bad idea. Yeah, super bad idea. So yeah,
that's rough. Even I mean, from a guy's perspective, I can only imagine that, if you're with somebody and if you're truly committed, and the one thing that you can't do with anybody else, technically, if we're speaking of what you do in relationships, you can have conversations with other people, you can do a lot of different things with other people that people still may not deem inappropriate. But sex is one thing that everybody universally is like, nah, unless we have an agreement that we can do that. And the fact that your person says like, yeah, I'm just not attracted to you in that way, it sucks because it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Right. I don't even want to now do it with you anymore because I feel like if you do want to do it, it's performative or it's not something that you want to do. You're just doing it because I say I want to do it.
It's like washing the clothes. It was a chore.
Yeah. So, that has to be tough. And I can't imagine. Tough. So when it came to now, you said the beginning of the end and the breakup process. Can you talk a little about that and just to leave? We had an episode called Leaving and Grieving, like what that, putting that relationship away and moving on, what that was like and what you learned from that experience.
It was hard because breakups just suck. Yeah, they're hard. They're hard anyway. But I think it was like the writing was on the wall for a while. And the whole open relationship thing, it had introduced so many elements that we hadn't experienced. It had turned a very beautiful relationship into a mildly toxic one, because there was deceit that was happening on both of our parts. Our open relationship endeavors ultimately turned into cheating situations. I was so just crazily shocked by that because we took so much time to approach the open relationship carefully. Like we spent months like researching it and talking to people and deep diving into it to make sure this was what we wanted to do. We had established our rules, and I had even met, which was a weird story that I'll save for another day, but I had even met the woman that he was talking to, that he still to this day will never admit that he slept with, but I know he did. I met her, you know, and it was cool. So it was hard. It was very hard. Like our very first words of breakup were on Valentine's Day, which is like the last day you would expect to say something like that, but it just wasn't handled like any other Valentine's Day. It was real low key. We didn't plan anything for each other. We were just in the bed at the end of the night, and I would turn my back to go to sleep, and he turned his back to go to sleep, and then like 15 minutes later, he was like, "We can't do this anymore," and I was just like, "Oh shit." Oh shit. I ain't even moved to like turn around and be like, what are you talking about? Because I just knew. I knew at that point he had caught me. Because he had put a tracking device on my phone, on my car. I believe he put a device on my car. So my patterns were switching up because I was cheating. And he called me while I was in the guy's house. I think I talked about this on last episode. And I looked around like, is he here? Oh my God, he's about to kill me. But he had a device on my car, and I had found panties in his drawer when I was doing his laundry one day, and a sex toy. So it had just gotten rotten, like just rotten little things were happening, and it was just like we started to just like not like each other and lose just general respect for each other. And so we lived together. At that time, I started working for the company that managed the property that we lived at. So it kind of got around in the job that I was going through a breakup. Bad things happened with like our apartment that I won't get into, but it put my job in jeopardy. The worst and probably only real arguments we had in 4.5 years came after we broke up. We had the worst blow-ups of our time together after our breakup. But one of the nicest things that I can remember about that leave and grief period was that when I moved into my new place, one, he like helped move some of the stuff over there at the end, like little things. We had 2 dogs together, my 2 dogs today. He kept them for a couple days while I got my apartment settled. And then there were nights where it was just super hard for me to adjust to living by myself after living with him for 3 years, where literally physically I just felt uncomfortable going to sleep. And sometimes I would just call him, we would just talk and cry together and do all of that. But it was other times where it was so bad that he would like come to my apartment and like stay with me, and like for nothing. He didn't try to have sex with me. He didn't, oh God, I knew I was gonna fucking cry. He just was very selfless. To do something like that with a woman who told you that she ain't really feeling you like that. You all are now broken up. You live in 2 separate households. It is now your time to work on yourselves. And she calls you and is like, I can't sleep. And it's uncomfortable, and like I don't want to be with you, but like I could really use your warm body right now. And I think it was because we needed each other. We really did. We needed each other in that time, and we were a consult to one another. You know, it was not just me, it was him too, because he would come so fast that it was almost like, girl, I'm glad you said something because I was gonna call you anyway. And then we got through that. You know, I got over that after probably like 6 months of time. And, you know, I'm forever grateful for that relationship because I learned so much about myself, about a good man, about having standards, about not letting anybody play in your face, about being enough. But I also learned like what not to do when you're faced with a really difficult moment. I know not to bring people into your relationship. I learned not to let your friends they can have an opinion, but you don't have to, it's not Bible. So I learned so much about myself in that time, and I was in my early 30s. So that's very much a time where you're putting what you learn into practice. So the timing of it all was really good, and I'm thankful for it. But it was a whirlwind of a breakup, but I'm glad I went through what felt like a mutually respectful breakup. That lesson from my parents, we never talked bad about each other. We held each other in the light always. What didn't work out between us doesn't make us bad people. And I'm thankful to him for that, for going through that with me.
Yeah.
And I think he's thankful for me going through it with him.
And I think it's even important for even you saying this is not even saying that the sex was bad. It was just you to experience, right?
Yeah.
Because for every sexual experience that you have with everybody is different, right? Some people could say it was the bomb with you. Some people be like, it was okay. It was cool. It just all depends on that chemistry that you have with another person. So even with you saying that, I didn't even take it as like you saying anything about him sexually. It's just your experience and, you know, what you were attracted to. It just wasn't aligned in that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. That's all.
So I know we could probably go for another hour. Honestly,
I know, it's nuts. It's crazy.
But you know, now that we are where we are now, right? And how long ago was that when you guys
we broke up in 2019, so it's been 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Now I feel like your relationship, I was about to say his name, Lord. Your relationship with Mr. Mature, you know, set a bar for you, right? As far as how you feel like you should be treated. Do you still have faith that with a man that you are also really physically attracted to is attainable in this moment of your life now, or do you feel like you have to make certain concessions in order to find love and a lifelong partner?
Y'all, Dre trying to get me to cry just the whole few minutes of this episode, and I'm gonna fight like hell to not do it. Okay. Like, I'm okay with crying, but I don't want to cry through everything I'm saying at this point. All right.
This one, the interrogation light is really...
Whew, I need to lay down after this. You know, so do I think it's possible? Yes, I do. My heart won't let me think otherwise. Like, if I let myself slip into this concept that doesn't exist, I will become hardened and bitter and nasty, things that I see people being today because they're so jaded by their bad experiences, or like, why hasn't it happened for me? If it exists so much, why hasn't it happened for me? So I can't let myself think that way. So I do think it's possible. I think realistically, of course, you know, the older you get, the more you change. One, you learn what you want, but you also learn things that aren't that important. You learn like what truly matters about having like lifelong partnership. And if I had found a lifelong partner at 25 versus finding them today, it could have totally worked out back then too. But I say this a lot on this show, that I really like who I am today from this perspective. And I feel like I'm going to be the best partner possible, the best wife possible today because of all that I've learned and all that I've experienced. I needed to have those experiences to be who I am today. I don't know that at 25 I could say I love myself in this way. I love certain things about me. I certainly love that waistline from 25 a lot more than the waistline today. But yeah, I think it's possible. I have encountered it. I have come very close to it, but just really bad timing didn't allow for that to be a thing. So yes, I believe it's possible. And I'm so hopeful that I'm so close to it, because I'm ready to share my life with someone. I'm ready to like go through life together, the goods, the bads, the challenges, and I want a family.
For sure.
So yeah.
No, I love to hear
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen for sure. And I want people, like I said, we can go for another hour because I could bring up so many more questions. I love doing this. And mind you, if you ever come out with me and like you get me in a conversation with somebody, I'll start peeling somebody's life back,
onions,
and peeling it and peeling it and peeling it and asking all these questions. And I've had people in the middle of the club like crying their eyes out.
How did we get
here? I'm trying to tell you.
What is this? It's okay. It's gonna be Dre's turn soon, y'all.
It is. But I think the biggest thing and the takeaway from that, and what I asked you in that last question, is for people to understand that, you know, there's a difference between actions and the feelings and emotions behind those actions. A lot of us as people, although we vary in the things that we do, we feel the baseline same emotions, feelings, and have the same needs. Sure. The same person that joins a gang is looking kind of similar to is looking for the same thing that maybe a person joining a frat is looking for. You know, it's maybe community, place to fit in.
That's
how
it.
we
Brotherhood, support.
Yeah, brotherly. So what actions we take based off of those feelings and emotions can differ just based off of our life and what's available to us. But at the basis, as humans, we have a lot of the same feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
So in what I had asked Rhonda, just keep in mind that with that and with Mr. Mature setting the bar so high, that it's not about getting flowers every day. It's about somebody who's showing that level of love and emotion, feeling towards her. So while for Mr. Mature, it may have been flowers, and another man, it may look like something different, but it's still him showing. It may be he brings you lunch every week or something. You know, it's something that shows that he's, you know, truly there, truly committed, and truly into you, and committed to that relationship. So just think about that. If you had somebody in the past who set the bar high in certain areas, but it didn't work out, don't look for somebody who's going to mimic those specific actions all the time. Think about the emotion and feeling that they had behind that, that contributed to them taking those actions.
Yeah.
But Rhonda, thank you for
This was fun.
sharing this, and we're going to do a future episode on some other parts of your story that I feel like would contribute to a great conversation, and maybe even bring some people into this conversation too. So one thing I want to talk about is, too many times, unfortunately, I hear women talking about being sexually abused as they're young, and being, whether it's from family members, uncles, and I also want to shine light on men who a lot of times get looked over, who deal with sexual abuse as a younger male from older women who it's a completely inappropriate relationship. So I think that's an episode we could just have at some point to just talk about that thing that people go through. But then also, we didn't even dive into, you know, the influence your dad had on you when it comes to the partners that you chose and why you chose them. So I think the daddy issue, quote unquote,
issue thing,
could be a whole nother episode that we talked about too. But
sure,
Rhonda, thank you for sharing your real life lesson. How I do as an interviewer?
You did great. I had no concerns. You know, I just was nervous about me. And listen, I kept saying I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I honor feelings, and I think crying is very therapeutic and helpful. Just sometimes it's hard to talk through that. And I'm a person, like, if I'm gonna do it, just let me have my moment. I don't want to talk and cry. I want to just be like or I got this. So yes, you were wonderful. You were wonderful. Thank you for having this moment with me. And I hope y'all learned something. I hope you learned a little bit more about me, and hopefully gleaned some gems.
Yeah. So next week is me.
Next week is Dre.
Let's see if I have any waterworks. I'm trying to tell you, being married brought up a way more sensitive side out of me. I watched like 3 YouTube videos the other day and was just, I don't like boo-hoo, but it's like you get the man tier. Denzel.
Yeah, the glory tier.
The glory tier. I start worrying. I'm like
the Will Smith tier from
was it Pursuit of Happiness?
Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State. Okay.
Yeah.
No, Pursuit of Happiness is the clapping in the middle of the street.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, it softened me up. And as you reflect on life and just think of the things that you learned, the things you've been through,
and the things you've overcome. Yes,
I get why, you know, grandma was in the church, you know, just hands up, like, thank you, Jesus.
Thank you for bringing me over.
For bringing me over.
Yes.
But thank you for tuning in to Real Love Scenario.
Yes.
And hearing Rhonda's scenario.
Listen, and if you want to write into us about you, because that usually makes us not cry. Please go to our website, relationshiprestore.com, click the contact button and write into the show. Follow me at Ronnie Kate.
At Dre Smith.
And at Relationship Restored on all platforms. Don't forget to leave a review, okay?
Please.
See you next week.